everyone, I'm Marcia Malcolm, and for my first story I will do my own rendition of The Princess and the Pea. Once, in a time and a place quite different from our own, there lived a prince. Now this prince was a kind prince. He was good and he was smart, and for these reasons he was quite well loved by all of the people in his land. But there was one person that loved the prince more than all the others, and that was his mother, the queen. One day the queen looked at her son and thought, he seems a little bit sad and lonely. So she decided, well, perhaps it is time for him to get married. But who best to marry the prince that she loved more than anything in the world? This girl would have to be something quite special. So she decided the only person that could marry her son would have to be a real princess. To find a princess, the queen decided that the prince would travel with her across the world, for there they were sure to find somebody somewhere that was a real princess that her prince could love. As they traveled, they met many different kinds of girls. Some were fat, and some were thin, and some were tall, and some were short. They had all colors of hair, all colors of eyes, all colors of skin. And while they were all very lovely, and the prince seemed to get along with them quite well, each new girl the queen met, she thought, there's something not quite right with her, and I just don't believe that she's a real princess. After months and months of this, the prince and the queen returned home. The prince was still unmarried and the queen was disappointed. Where were all the real princesses? That evening, just before the queen and the prince sat down to dinner, a horrible storm rolled into town. Black clouds covered the sky. Rain poured from them in buckets upon buckets. There was a mighty wind that shook the trees and howled in the corridors of the castle. There were bright flashes of lightning and loud crashes of thunder. It was a very noisy storm. As the queen and the prince were eating, they thought they heard something amongst the sounds of the storm. But, they decided it was just the sound of a tree branch hitting the side of the castle. But then the sound came again, louder this time. There is somebody at the door. So the queen sent someone to answer it, and there, in the middle of the storm, was a girl. She was soaking wet from head to toe with rain, as though she had been walking for hours outside. And she said to the queen and the prince, "Oh, please, I am a princess. Would you please help me? I've been traveling and I'm so tired and I'm very hungry. Do you think I could have something to eat and perhaps a place to sleep?" The prince invited her in gladly, and the two began to talk, and it was obvious that they got along very well and liked each other very much. But the queen thought something was a little bit strange. A princess in the middle of a storm? No servants, no horse, no carriage. Something wasn't adding up. So the queen decided to test the girl. And this was the test. She went to her bedroom where she would sleep that night, and on the bed she piled 20 mattresses, and on top of the 20 mattresses she piled 20 feather beds, and underneath she placed a single tiny green pea. The queen thought, if this is a real princess, her skin will be sensitive enough to feel that pea even under all those layers of mattresses. They went to bed, and the next morning the queen asked to the girl, "So, how did you sleep?" And the girl replied, "I barely slept. I am sorry to say, but that bed is not very comfortable. I tossed and I turned, but no matter which way I went, I couldn't get comfortable. It was as though something was poking me all night. I swear to you I am black and blue from head to toe." The queen's mouth fell open in amazement. Here was a girl that was quite clearly a real princess, and as she looked at her son she could see he was falling in love with her more and more each minute. So she gave him her blessing to marry the girl. And so the prince found the princess, they were married, and he was never lonely again, and they lived happily together for the rest of their days.